Hello and welcome to this lecture. And in this lecture we will go ahead and learn how exactly can we display a particular message when the user sign up is successful. So right now when you go ahead and simply type in some credentials over here, and if you type in some password like let's say test 456 and let's say test 456, and when you hit sign up it actually does nothing and the data over here actually disappears. So what exactly is happening up over here? So whenever you go ahead and submit the form data, the form data is going to be submitted by the post method. So if you actually go ahead and have a look into the form over here, which is the register form right over here, as you can see the request method which we have used for the form is the post method, which means that whenever you go ahead and submit the form data is going to be submitted using the post method, and the data actually has to be posted somewhere. So in our case that's actually not happening. We are not submitting the data anywhere over here. So whenever we encounter that post method or whenever the data is submitted, what we wish to do here is that we wish to actually get some information from the data, and then we want to display a message that the sign up is successful. So what we want to do is that whenever the user successfully signs up, we want to redirect him to a particular page, let's say in this case index.html template, and over there on the top we want to display some sort of a message over there. So how exactly can we go ahead and do that? So in order to display a message, we need to make modifications to this particular register view right over here. So in order to display a message, first of all you need to import messages. So in order to import messages, you import them from django.contrib. So you type in from django.contrib import, that's going to be messages. So once you have the messages, you're pretty much good to go. And now what we do is that we are going to modify this register view right here. So this particular thing or this particular code should be executed when we want to create a form. But what if we actually don't want to create a form, instead we want to submit, as in this case right over here? So what usually is happening right now is that whenever you type in something over here and hit sign up, we are again getting back this form, because when you click the submit button, it's actually going to execute the code inside this view again. So the form is going to be created once again and we are going to have the same exact page. So now what we want to do is that we want to identify when the user clicks this sign up button. So when the user clicks the sign up button, the form is actually posting the data. So what we wish to do is that whenever there is a post request from the form, we simply want to go ahead and instead of redirecting to the same page, we actually want to go ahead and display a message. So here what we do is that we check if the request method is the post method. So we type in if request dot method, if this is equal to post, then what we wish to do is that we wish to first go ahead and even before displaying the message, we only want to display the message if the form data is valid. So in order to check the validity of the form, first of all you need to go ahead and actually get the form. So we type in form equals, that's going to be user creation form, and now this parameter field of the user creation form is not going to be empty, instead it's actually going to get the request. So we type in request dot post. So that means now the form is going to have all the data which is submitted from the post method. And now in order to check if this form data is valid, we simply use a method which is called as the isValid method. So you don't have to write the code from scratch to check each and every field for being valid. Instead you can simply type in if form dot is underscore valid. So this is the method which is going to check for the validity of your form, and if the form is valid, now you can go ahead and display the message. So the message which we want to display is that we want to display something like welcome, the username, your account is created. So first of all we need to extract the username which the user actually used to register. So in order to get that username, you type in username equals, and then we need to extract that from the form. So we type in form dot, that's going to be cleaned data, and we get the data by typing in .get, and here you need to specify the field which you want to get. So we want to get the username over here, and once we do that, now it's going to get the username and store it right over here. Now let's make use of this username by displaying a message. So we have already imported messages over here. So here we simply type in messages.success. So as we want to display a success message, we will use success over here. And in here, you need to pass in the request. And then to actually display your message, you type in F, and then you display your message over here. So let's say you say something like welcome, and then you need to display the username. So you type in username, then you say something like your account is created. Okay, so once we do that, we are pretty much good to go. So once the account is created and once we display this message, then we want to redirect the user to a page which is nothing but the index page. So we type in return redirect, and here simply type in food:index. So now once we do that, the user will now be redirected. Now as you can see, it's showing us an error. That's because we have not yet imported redirect. So simply go ahead, type in redirect over here, give a comma, and you should be good to go. So now what we do is that we already have enclosed this particular thing in the if block, which means that if the request method for the form is going to be post, then we actually want to go ahead, validate the form, and then display a message by extracting the username from the form. Now we already had this bunch of code right here which usually needed to be executed so that we can actually get the form. So what we do is that we simply enclose this particular block of code in an else block. So this should actually be enclosed in the else block, and once we go ahead and do that, we should be good to go. So now the way in which this thing will work is that whenever the register view comes up, initially it's actually going to go ahead and check if the request method is post. So when you simply go ahead and visit this URL right here, the request method is not going to be post. Instead, it's going to be just a request to get the form. Hence, we will get the form right here, which means that the code in the else block is going to be executed and we basically get the form right there on our web page. Now for the second time, when you go ahead and just submit some form data over here and click on the sign up button, in that case what would happen is that the request method is going to be post, and henceforth this code is going to be executed. So now let's go ahead and visit register again, and now let me just go ahead and type in some new username. So I'll type in my name here, and let's say the password is test456. That's going to be test456 as well. And now when I click on sign up, it says that the password is too short, which means that the validation part over here is working. And now let's go ahead and test the validation part one more time by typing in some unmatching passwords. So I'll type in any random passwords here and any other random password over here. And now when I click on sign up, as you can see, it says the two password fields didn't match. Now let me just type in the password as, let's say, test456, and let's say test456. So when I click on sign up, as you can see, we are actually redirected to this page right here, but we don't have any sort of a message displayed right over here. So why exactly is that? That is because we have actually passed in the message over here, but we have not included this message in any one of the web pages. So what we wish to do now is that we wish to include those messages over here, or display those messages over here in the index page, which is this page right here. So in order to include those messages over there, we simply go to the base.html file, which is this file right here in our food app, and we are actually going to include the code to display the messages over here, because our index file basically inherits the code, which is the navigation bar code from the base.html. So let's assume we want to display the message right below the navigation bar. So we will go ahead and write in the code to display the message over here. So in order to display the message, we first use the syntax over here and we type in if messages, which means that if we have any sort of a message, then we go ahead and loop through them. So I also need to include end if over here. And now in order to loop through all those messages, we need a for over here. So we type in for message, which means a single message in messages. And we also need a end for over here. So we type in end for. And now to get one of those single messages, you simply go ahead and use double curly braces and type in message over here. So now once this thing is done, this should work pretty much fine. So now let's go to register and now let's type in the username, and now let's type in the password as test 456 test 456. And when I click on sign up, as you can see, we get a message over here which says welcome username, your account is created. And for some weird reason, it's actually displaying the message twice. So hopefully this does not happen when we log in once again. So now let's do one more thing. Let's actually try to modify or style up this message a little bit. So in order to style that thing up, what I will do here is that I'll simply enclose this thing up in a div. So I'll type in div class, and let's say this is going to be alert. So we are going to use some bootstrap classes over here, and I'll type in alert dash, and here in order to get the actual tag from the message, I'm simply going to type in message.tag. So that's going to get the information about tag. And now let's go ahead and put this message up over here in the div. So I'll just cut that, paste it up over here, and we should be good to go. So now let's go back to register again, and now let me type in the username and the password, and let's click on sign up. And as you can see, now this thing is actually styled a little bit, and we also have the message displayed over here, and now the message is not going to be displayed twice. And now if you just usually go ahead and visit this page, which is the index page, that is by hitting refresh, as you can see, you won't have any messages displayed up over here. And that's because that message is only a one-time message which you get on signing up. So that's it for this lecture, and hopefully you guys be able to understand how to display a message when the user sign up is successful and how the validation works in case of signing up. So in the next lecture, we will go ahead and we will learn how to actually store the form data which we have entered in the registration form. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.